chemical industry is highly science-based. And we go back to a person who is called father of chemical industry, Professor Prafulla Chandra Ray in Calcutta, who was a university professor but had an intense desire to start industry. That was Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals, Bengal Chemicals. And it was a great indigenous effort. The number of things in India that have been done totally locally. But to say that have we come out with some revolutionary process, I would hesitate to say that we haven't come out with a revolutionary process. But we have come out with very attractive processes, particularly in the API, that is the bulk drug industry in pharmaceuticals. You will find today we have $6 or $7 billion per annum pharma companies, whether it is Ranbaxy, which is now with Sun, or Reddy's Lab, or Lupin, Aurobindo, so forth. Number of processes they have developed indigenously. They didn't get the process from any foreign company. So, excellent example of indigenous. Our own former graduate and my old dear friend, Dr. Gharda, everything is indigenous. Not only indigenous, he was the first one to make a blue dye which was superior to the blue dye that came from the most renowned company in the world, Bayer. Then, when he moved into agrochemicals, one of the famous weedicide, now not that popular, I think some places they have withdrawn, ibuprofen, isoputeron. Isoputeron, everybody in the world at that time was making by using 4G, which as you know is very toxic. He developed a non-4Gene process. He got number of ICMA, which is now called ICC, Indian Chemical Council, very prestigious PC Ray Award. The awards have been named after PC Ray because he was a pioneering figure. He also was the initiator of the Indian Chemical Manufacturers Association, which we call now Indian Chemical Council. The agrochemical industry grew entirely out of indigenous effort first. And organophosphates. So it was a combination of effort between NCL, RRL Hyderabad, which is now called IICT, and RRL Jorhat, which now has a new name. These three put together came out with very effective processes for making renowned agrochemicals. And India became a very significant player. And in the developing nations, only two countries mattered at that time, India and Brazil. But now China has become a very, very big player in agrochemicals. Sometimes they have created capacity required for the whole world. Even in engineering polymer, Gharda had developed something very unique which was bought over by Solvay. So you can see for yourself. So whether you take agrochemicals, you take pharmaceutical, in the case of bulk chemicals, we haven't had a totally new process, but we have had many improvements in the processes that have been imported or adopted from known sources. So we have done quite well in the area of even bulk perfumery chemicals. As you know, in ICT we have this postgraduate course in perfumery technology, and that arose out of the fact that industry was willing to put up all the money, both for scholarship as well as capital expenditure. It's a popular course. Lately, you might have seen in bioprocess technology, ICT headed by Lali, Professor Lali, they are doing good work of indigenization. Something has come up in India Glycol in UP, which is quite, I believe, quite So there is a very famous saying in India, no? Apna Hath Jagannath.
Yes.
So there is no really substitute. But I'll also give you a quote which is attributed to the then chief of Exxon. You know, Exxon is now
Yes.
Exxon Mobil, one of the largest companies in the world in petroleum refining, petrochemicals, where the CEO said, you can always buy technology, but remember what you bought is second hand. And if you don't make improvements, you will be left behind. There is another statement which I use whenever I talk about chemical industry and then prove it by examples, that no technology is ever mature till you come to the theoretical figure in terms of raw material consumption. That doesn't mean that you have still reached the optimal level of energy consumption. A very neglected area where the Indian industry has made some good strides is recovery of chemicals from waste streams. I'll give you 2-3 examples. Now, there may be liquid streams or gaseous streams. One of the areas where Professor J.B. Joshi and his colleagues, all nitric acid plants and nitric acid based oxidations have NOx coming out, and they are brown fumes, so they are visible. Now, you can scrub them unintelligently. You can solve the problem of removing the brown fumes, but not through value added. What was done was through very elaborate simulations and good knowledge of the basic chemistry that goes around, very interesting set of conditions were devised in existing plant to get highly selective sodium nitrite, NaNO2, and not mixture with, which fetches very good price. So you convert liability into an asset. Now this is an area, whether it is liquid stream, solvent recovery, every bulk drug could end up in the manufacture minimum 10 times the desired product as unwanted products. Now there is nothing like a waste stream. They are all resources. There also Indian companies have done reasonably well. In some cases very well. It is here where you get full-throated management support because they can't access this from anybody. And if they access, they pay very fancy sums of money. So I would say across the entire spectrum of chemical industry, we have been able to do something quite worthwhile. In some cases, strikingly good. In some cases, mediocre. For example, in fertilizer industry, because of government pricing, the incentive to innovate is not that great. In petrochemicals and petroleum refining and in catalysis, we have been able to do, for example, Reliance developed its own catalyst for polypropylene, which probably saves them 150 crores a year. There are many other catalysts that have been developed in India which made quite a difference to the processes, including the ubiquitous Rani nickel. People have been able to make Rani nickel of quality which could be used for varieties of purposes, including hydrogenation of unsaturated fat for edible fats and many industrial processes. But if you go back to the history of innovations in the chemical industry, a subject which I love, the kind of breakthrough processes that came from the very beginning, I would love to see one day in not too distant future, India coming out with something which will be a global leader. Now, for instance, when ammonia came, Haber process, or in the more recent time, butane to maleic anhydride, or in early 60, propylene to acrylonitrile, or the real archetype of discovery-driven product nylon 66, polyamide 66 by Caruthers in DuPont, or our polyester fiber, or for that matter Teflon. Now some of these were serendipitous, that is, they were accidentally discovered processes. But in not a single case accident occurred to people who are not very accomplished. Whether it was penicillin, whether it was Teflon, whether it was LDPE, whether it was HDPE. One of the reasons why in India, this question that you posed to me in a different way, the indigenous development, and why we are not able to come out with yet more economically attractive, clean processes, is because we have a very peculiar cultural problem of not having ownership of failures. And you cannot innovate without failures.
Yes.
In every family, when something goes wrong, we give alibis. Don't own the failure. Unless you learn how to own failures, we will not be able to do. And I explained to you that when nobody else has the know-how or is very difficult to get, necessity becomes the real harbinger, like what we have done in the nuclear program.
Correct.
Or in the space program. There are many technologies that have been developed by BARC and Atomic Energy Laboratory, which are front ranking. They are not in the normal civilian, but whether it is recovery of uranium from very lean ores, or whether getting beryllium and things like that, they have done remarkable work. Even in the case of space program and all, we were denied many things. And denial guarantees development of technology when it is, for example, propellants for space program. I think enough. With that,
Your hands are hurting.
Yeah.
It's okay.
you want some more?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when there is a denial of technology, like what happened in the early stages, all multinational pharma companies were not willing to come forward and manufacture bulk drugs in India. They only wanted to do formulations, tableting and all. The Indian industry role, now mind you, all our major pharma companies which are $1 billion, they have no tie-up with any well-known pharma company in the world. They are all on their own, and they are typically entrepreneur-driven. So, whenever you have entrepreneur-driven companies, their penchant for developing technology is much more than in business houses. The business houses, in India thrived on licensing. And once the licensing was gone, many of them crumbled. So the many houses which were very prominent in chemical industry, they have vanished or are inconsequential. Anything else you want? I am willing to comment.
Sir, the role the youth can play in the process of indigenesis.
Role?
The role the youth can
students.
play.
See, if you have fire in the belly, there, ICT is trying to bring out a directory of first generation technocrat entrepreneurs. So far, I think they have been able to list probably 400 or so, 300 to 400, but there are many more. Now, they had no business background, but like Dr. Garda, and they have come out. For example, you take Aarti Industries, Dogri, they have no foreign collaboration. They are almost like 3,000 crore company today. So, these people were able to develop, design and execute and make money and also shine on the stock exchange. that's the final proof, no? Whether you are able to monetize your all the work that you have done. So there are people who have that kind of business orientation based on technology. Mind you, you need a very different bent of mind to be able to do business of that kind, that you can develop technology and also commercialize. That commercialization part and marketing and running a company is a different job than only coming out with a novel process. Novel process is one, but to convert that into a working plant, you all hear every now and then the number of impediments we have in India in starting a company. Right from acquisition of land to so many permissions that you require. I am hoping that business environment will further improve. But remember that the way an engineer is trained, whenever I used to address the first year students all my life, I always address the first year students to tell them you join chemical engineering, but you may like to know the virtues of chemical engineering for whatever reason you might have joined. And the definition of an engineer is interested in getting things done and making things work and is prepared to accept partial solution to insolvable problems.
Yes.
So if you follow this motto, you should be able to get over all the impediments that come in your way. If I go back to beginning of my career in university, it was nothing favorable to do research. No PhD had ever come out from Cambridge. Now you can crib about it. You can give very cogent arguments why I can't do research. Because there is no financial support, there is no culture. Now that is easy. What is difficult is to recognize all this and get on. Now when you publish, now I'm referring more to the academic world, when you publish in international journals of standing, there has to be some novelty, otherwise who will publish your work? Now there you see, unlike industry which had barriers in terms of import duties and all, if at all we were sending a paper to the most renowned journal, we had a barrier of kind of disdain of what kind of research these guys might have done in India. So there was no protection. Year after year they are getting ranked as number one. So the crux lies, if for example take what J.B. Joshi and Pandit, they started with their PhD work on agitated contactors or bubble products. Now in the agitated contactors, as you know, J.B. Joshi graduated in 1971. That was the first time we took up research on gas-inducing impellers. You have a demonstration experiment in your fourth year, you will see how you have a hollow shaft and you have a gas. Now how they have been able to design large number of hydrogenators in India based on the work done initially. And then other fellows picked up this. There are other people who also designed, but the work was done in ICT. We did work on ion exchange resins and these processes were commercialized on a very decent scale. Nobody was doing that in India before. And in some cases they were not doing overseas also. So they were close to being, for the first time, being done. So there are many examples in India of pure indigenous development from many times from lab to full scale plant, no pilot plant. We used to have in chemical engineering in early years a very provocative title, dropping the pilot. Why you need pilot plant? Pilot plant is when you have gross uncertainty or you are coming out a totally new product and you want to test what the market is like. So you produce in pilot quantity. Otherwise, why do you need? If I know that this is the separation I can do, I don't need a pilot plant for distillation or solvent. I put the large scale plant right away. I would think in India by now, several hundred crores have been spent in chemical industry based on totally indigenous development. They without shadow of doubt. No support from outside. From basic experiments, often not having pilot plant. Now Excel Industries from the beginning and the companies which then came out of Excel Industries, UPL and all, they did many things on their own. For example, making aluminium phosphide, rodenticide for driving away rats. It's a hazardous operation. But they were able to master and they were making aluminium phosphide years and years ago. So there are, of course, much more can be done. And I go by examples which will promote others to take up. So I gave you example of pharma industry, agro industry, and then fine chemicals industry. And you look at number of individuals who have put up this, going through all the insurmountable difficulties. And it may be a good idea for you to meet one or two such persons to tell them how they were able to come. I think at least 3 or 4 of my PhD started industry. You have a fire in the belly, you will succeed. If you don't have, merely having good ideas is not enough to get into manufacturing. Alright.
Sir, and if we could conclude the video, if you could. Yes, yes.
Sir, many times we notice that students are going abroad to study for a further education. Many people settle down and work there in their companies. Do you think they in any way staying abroad can contribute towards indigenesis here?
Very doubtful. See what happens in America, there are very strict rules. They sign secrecy agreement. Suppose they were involved in development of technology in that company, they might have full knowledge. Clandestinely, if they keep copies and then come and give it to someone, they face very serious liability. Many people have been caught, Chinese and Indians. So there is no way. But if they decide to return and do something which is not connected with, but they have experience of development, yes. But the fellows, most of the time people have gone with the desire to settle there. So it's a different game. It's a very different game. Hardly anybody was able to start chemical industry of his own, unlike IT or financial services. From across India, you will hardly find any example, and maybe some very isolated example. Pharma, there were 2-3 examples.
So
Join the turbulence, yes. When you have a turbulent flow, which is very common in chemical industry. Yes, it is turbulence which will give you the churning up. And if you have that churning up, you will come out successful. If you don't have that churning up, nothing will happen.
Sir,
You have a very bright future. And if you have any inclination to start something of your own, I would still advise you to first work for at least 3-4 years in some company. And never try to do anything that you did in that company. Because if you do that, means that you lack integrity and you lack ideas. For example, if I did consulting in something 40 years ago, and let's say we were highly successful, now people keep on chasing me and saying, will you? I said no, because I am concerned that chapter is closed. I have nothing, no excitement for repeating that, and independent of the fact that legally I may be okay to do that. But moral part is much more than legal.
Correct.
See, legality has no morality.
Yes.
So when you fight anything legally, the lawyers are not bothered about the moral part. They might be fighting for a person knowing that he is a culprit.
So,
So, they always say legality has no morality. You just fight the case.
Absolutely.
thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.